Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Monday, December 9th. As per usual, we have a Jaguars mock draft for you here on Mock Draft Monday. The Jaguars won yesterday, though. So we do have a bit of a mix-up, a bit of a change-up for y'all now that the Jaguars, they currently do not hold the top pick in the draft, right? They're now all the way down at number 5. They dropped 4 spots after beating the Titans. Obviously, it's fun to beat Tennessee. It was an ugly game. Jags and Titans have a very long-standing, bitter rivalry dating back to 1995, right? So anytime inside that building that they beat Tennessee, that they beat the Titans, it's going to be fun. Fans are going to have a good time with it. And we do have a Victory Monday sale going on at genjag.com/shop. Everything's 30% off with code Duval. That's Duval with 3 U's, DUUUVAL. So you can go get some fun merch, support the channel, all that good stuff. But the victory cost them 4 spots in the draft at this point. Now, a lot can happen. Like, the Jaguars could still end up with the number 1 pick. They could slide even further if they win more games. Like, there's 4 games left. The Jags play the Raiders, the Jets, the Titans, and the Colts. So a lot can happen. We don't know how it's going to end up. But at this point, the Jaguars have the 5th overall pick. And I know there's been a lot of kind of panic. The Jaguars cost themselves a chance at Travis Hunter. It is possible that Travis Hunter falls to 5. Like, there's going to be 2 quarterbacks off the board in all likelihood to the Giants and Raiders, right? Who are ahead of the Jaguars. And then you have the Panthers at 4 and the Patriots at 3, right? So could either of those teams take Travis Hunter? Absolutely. Yes. They could also go in different directions. Like, there's no guarantee that Travis Hunter does not fall to 5. But for the sake of this mock draft, keep it fresh, we are going to say that he goes to one of the Patriots or Panthers, and so the Jaguars don't have Travis Hunter. But as I've told y'all, there's a lot of blue chip prospects in this class. There's a lot of guys at the top that I think have legit round 1 grades that would be really exciting. So we're going to dive into that. First, want to talk about free agency a little bit. I've talked about, should the Jaguars just keep Christian Kirk and not save the $10 million in cap space so you have a really good slot receiver? That's a possibility. For this exercise, we're going to say that we either release or trade Christian Kirk, saving the team $10 million to get to $56 million per overthecap.com in 2025 salary cap space. The Jaguars, they lost a little bit of their cap space for 2025 when they signed Walker Little. Not a huge chunk of it, though. So no big deal there. And they have a starting tackle for 2025. So that's good at left tackle and right tackle. We're attacking the defensive backfield in a big way in free agency. We're signing either DJ Reed or Charvarius Ward, probably a 3-year deal for either player, $15 million range. DJ Reed is 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He's a great corner. Not the biggest guy out there, though. And then Charvarius Ward, he's had some family issues this year, not been his best year. So I think, again, a 3-year deal, $15 million per year range, 2025 cap hit of around $6 to $7 million. Team out after the 2026 season, so you'd still have about $50 million to play with after that. And then we're signing 2 safeties. Budda Baker would be the big-time fish out of Arizona, but the Cardinals should keep him, in my opinion. But that's the type of player, if he was able to hit free agency and you're able to go add him, he is the type of guy that I think could really hold the rest of the team, especially on defense, more accountable, get those guys more fired up, and be the leader that they don't lack leadership necessarily, but bring that intensity to the third level of the defense. And then you've also got Javon Holland, Justin Reed, Andre Sisco as some other options. Combined, when you sign 2 of these safeties, you're probably looking at about $15 million in 2025 cap space if you land 2 of those guys. And again, the initial year 1 cap hits are going to be about 40% of what the average annual value of these contracts are. That's how the Jaguars do business. So you'd be sitting at about $35 million after that. I'd then be looking on offense, not a lot of movement here for me in terms of free agency. I'd be signing a Tevin Jenkins or a James Daniels or Aaron Banks, somebody in their mid-20s who can compete at guard potentially. And we'll still have competition coming in at guard in the draft too. But you look at Brandon Sheriff probably going to be his last year in Jacksonville if I had to bet on that. And then maybe you take a run at Zach Martin if he wants to go sign somewhere besides the Cowboys, but he's up there in age, not having his best year. He's dealt with some injuries too. So I would say stick with one of the younger guys that you could bring in for cheaper. And then that'd be about it for free agency for me, honestly, at this point. Some depth pieces here and there potentially, but then that takes us to the draft. And again, at number 5 overall, let's say the 2 quarterbacks are off the board and Travis Hunter's off the board. And so you could say, did Abdul Carter go off? Did Will Johnson, Mason Graham, a couple other candidates potentially up there? I'm going to say that it's Travis Hunter and Mason Graham who have come off the board, which leaves you in a position where you could take a swing at safety for a blue chip prospect, but we just spent money at safety, so we're not going to do that. Corner, if Will Johnson is there, yeah, you could go in that direction, certainly. You're running out of blue chip guys. I have about 7 true blue chip prospects, and I also have Will Campbell as a blue chip guy at guard, not tackle, only at guard specific. So we certainly have lost some of the best options in the draft, but the more I look at this, the more excited I get. And we have talked about this potential option here on the channel before. Tetairoa McMillan playing opposite Brian Thomas Jr. One thing that there's no debate about it, that the Jaguars have not done well enough, is get Trevor Lawrence legitimate outside receiving options. And he is such a good deep ball thrower. He's so good throwing outside the numbers. He's so good throwing deep down the field. You have Brian Thomas Jr., who is 6'3", 210, runs like the wind. You saw him get 8 catches in the second half yesterday. He's had a tremendous rookie year. Pairing up a player like T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona, who's 6'5", 212 pounds, can go up and get the contested catches, has incredible hands. I love what he does at the top of his routes to either flatten or come back to the football, pluck it out of the air. And that would be, Tetairoa McMillan and Brian Thomas Jr. as a duo on the outside, that could be absolute fireworks. It really could. That would be probably pretty quickly one of the best duos at outside receiver in the NFL. And yeah, you could try to get T. Higgins, but he's going to be the apple of everyone's eye, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career, and he's going to cost you a ton of money. I think this could be the better play. And comparing them as prospects, I think Tetairoa McMillan is a better prospect than T. Higgins was coming out of Clemson. I was a big fan of T. Higgins, but McMillan, I think, has more length, has more quickness and subtlety and route running chops, nuance to his routes than T. Higgins did. I would be on board for this pick, right? I'd be pretty fired up about it. You now have Trevor Lawrence, 2 legitimate outside receivers for the first time in his career. It's a travesty how the Jaguars have failed to get Lawrence the receivers he really needs. And yeah, if you go to get T-Mac, you're probably looking at Gabe Davis as just, wasted money next year. But at this point, that's probably what it's going to be anyways. So T-Mac, Brian Thomas Jr., Trevor Lawrence, that should get some folks excited, right? And then at 36, this guy is a top 10 prospect for me, and I don't think he should make it to 36. I don't think he will, but he consistently is in a lot of these mock drafts that I'm looking at, and on an NFL mock draft database. I ran this thing a bunch of different times. He keeps falling. So I'm just going to say, if Tyler Warren is on the board at 36, the tight end out of Penn State, who lines up in the slot, lines up in line, lines up at H-back, lines up at fullback, lines up at Wildcat quarterback, is the Penn State offense outside of Nick Singleton. He's the only one really doing anything consistently. Tyler Warren is such a stud. At 6'6" and 260 pounds, he was legitimately explosive and has some nimbleness at that size you would not expect. He has soft hands. He runs routes at a high level for his size. He's a freight train with the football in his hands. You can get him the ball at all three levels of the field. And I'm just not passing on somebody as talented as him. Even if Evan Ingram's still here and you drafted Brenton Strange, you do need three tight ends, and you have your boy out of Ohio State, Luke Farrell, is going to be a free agent this upcoming year. So you bring in Tyler Warren in your tight end room for 2025 as Evan Ingram, Tyler Warren, and Brenton Strange. And that's a really talented group. I know it's a lot of investment at the position, but my goodness, if you had Evan Ingram and Tyler Warren and Brenton Strange and Brian Thomas Jr. and Tedero McMillan, T-Mac, you're starting to talk about a group of skill position talent that rivals some of the best in the league potentially. I love that, and we're not going to forget about the lines of scrimmage. But with Walker Little being back, he's your starting left tackle next year. With Anton Harrison, he's your starting right tackle. Mitch Morse is probably your starting center. Ezra Cleveland is your starting left guard. So that leads us to the right guard spot, as I mentioned, and we signed some free agent or a free agent to come in and compete. But we're also going to have 67 overall offensive lineman Armand Membu out of Missouri coming in to compete as well. And I don't think he should be available at this point, but he is here for us, and we're going to take him. He plays right tackle for them, 21 years old, true junior. He's got all the talent in the world to potentially play tackle or guard at the next level. He has quick feet. He's got good mirroring ability, redirection ability. He's powerful at the point. He moves well to the second level and as a puller. So there's just, to me, not a lot of things that Armand Membu cannot do. And again, a player like that probably should come off the board before 67 overall, but it's the NFL draft. There's always values. There are always values to be found, and we get one here with Armand Membu, who's going to compete to start at right guard with whoever we sign in for agency, and then also probably be your swing tackle. So there's some good versatility there with Armand Membu. At 92, this is a player we've consistently added on day 3, but the disrespect for wide receiver Jaden Higgins, who's 6'4", 215 pounds. Now we're talking about having, and he does spend some time in the slot. 6'4", 215, 6'3", 210, 6'5", 212. Those are your top 3 receivers. And then Jaden Higgins, he can line up in the slot for you. He can line up outside, and he can give you that option where he can be your power slot. Parker Washington can be your quicker, speedier slot. And Higgins is just such a pro route runner with his physicality, and he can sink his hips a lot better than you would expect at his size. He can plant and go in the other direction, on out routes, on in-breaking routes. He's got great catch point skills. He's extremely physical, but he's not he's an athlete still. I mean, I don't think he's running in the 4.4s, but he is still an athlete. So getting that type of size for Trevor Lawrence, who is a quarterback who will give his receivers the opportunity to go make plays on the football. And now you actually have receivers that have the ability to do that, right? With Higgins, with T-Mac, with Brian Thomas Jr., and that would just be a ton of fun on offense. And that's what, the Jaguars, when they've been at their best throughout history, their identity is usually on the defensive side of the ball, but you need more offensive skill position talent for Trevor Lawrence. You just do. They've done a terrible job surrounding him with talent. And I think that going and getting these players that we've been able to add certainly changes that. At 109, we're going DT Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. He's a guy that at 6'3" and 315 pounds, he's incredibly explosive off the ball. He has become a bit of an impact rusher for them, pass rusher for them on the interior this year. I think he's still pretty raw overall, but somebody who's explosive as he is off the ball at his size, taking a swing like that in the 4th round, I think could be pretty exciting. And look, Devon Hamilton will probably be on the team next year. Eric Armstead will probably be on the team next year. You did draft Mason Smith. You did draft Jordan Jefferson, but I think Omar Norman Lott kind of rounds out that group, and it adds some depth because while Armstead and Hamilton probably will be on the roster next year, they probably won't be on the roster the following season. So again, you're building out that depth and the kind of pipeline there on the interior of the defensive line. At 129, we're taking center Parker Brailsford. I've talked about it. We're not going to just neglect the offensive line. And Brailsford, I think, perfect situation here. Mitch Morse starts in 2025, and Parker Brailsford learns under him, adds some mass to his frame, gets stronger, but he's a really good athlete. I think he's got great hand usage as well. Coming out of Alabama by way of Washington, followed the head coach over there to Alabama this year. He's a really good center talent, in my opinion. Being able to land him at 129, I think would be a good value. And Membu, guard, certainly can start at guard in this NFL, and then potentially at tackle as well. And then Parker Brailsford, your center of the future. So we're building that thing out. We're going to continue to add to that throughout free agency and the draft every single year, making sure that we're protecting Trevor Lawrence to the best of our ability. At 145, safety Andrew McCuber from Texas is still on the board. Another one, I just don't think there's any way he should be, but he doesn't have elite size or like super elite long speed. So maybe in a deep safety class, he could be available because there's going to be so many guys coming off the board at that position, and maybe guys just get drafted ahead of him for whatever reason. But he's a playmaker. He's a really, really solid player. Played at Clemson and Texas now, and he sees the game well. He's a solid tackler. I think he can play in a split zone. I don't know that he has the real range to be a true cover one, middle of the field free safety, but most guys don't these days too. But Makuba, he reads the game well. He makes big plays on the ball. Getting him at 145 would be special. And then 182, like safety, running back is super deep. And we're going to go get Kyle Monangai, somebody who we have talked about on the channel. Monangai out of Rutgers. He is quick. He's explosive. He has good contact balance. I love, like, he almost always gets through the line, finds the right hole, and gets to the second level and makes the first defender miss, whether that's a linebacker or a safety. And he's not going to have that legitimate long speed to be busting off like 80-yard runs, right? But he's going to be one of the guys in the NFL, in my opinion, who will consistently get you 5 to 10. And I think that there's something to be said for that and value in that, especially with a Jaguars team that they really struggle to just get decent run plays going on the ground. And part of that is the offensive line. Part of it is the scheme. We've upgraded the offensive line. Obviously, you're going to have a new coaching staff in here as well. And getting a Kyle Monangai, who I think has better vision than Tank Bigsby or Travis Etienne. He can come in and compete with Bigsby for kind of the early down work. And again, whether it's outside the tackles or inside gap or zone principles, I think Monangai can get to that second level, make somebody miss, and get off these 10+ yard runs at a pretty high clip, which is exciting. And then 199 overall, we're going quarterback Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon. I do not think that he's a starting quarterback in the league, but does he seem like one of those guys that could be a really, really good career backup that can help you win some games when your starter goes down? And you've now seen a couple straight years where that's been the case here in Jacksonville. Do I think Dillon Gabriel could kind of guide you? Yeah, because he doesn't have a starter's arm in the NFL. He's not an elite athlete, but he is accurate. He's smart. He sees the game incredibly well. I think he'd be a really good career backup for Trevor Lawrence. I think that would be a wise pick at this point to try to make sure you have a little bit better answer behind Trevor at this point. And then at 221, again, a deep running back class. Guys are falling down the board that probably should have come off earlier. We're taking our guy out of UCF, RJ Harvey. And will he be on the board? Who knows? But RJ Harvey is a walking big play. Super explosive. And, Travis Etienne going into the final year of his rookie deal, I don't think you're going to see him re-signed in Jacksonville. RJ Harvey is perfect for that role of the guy you want to get in space who can get you those 40, 50, 60, 70-yard runs with his speed, his creativity as a ball carrier. Develop into that role for you long term. So that's the draft, folks. I think this would be a lot of fun. Again, the biggest difference here with what we did compared to what we normally do is getting Tetairoa McMillan at 5 and and also adding Jaden Higgins and Tyler Warren. You have monsters. You have catch point guys. You have Trevor Lawrence, who is such a good deep ball thrower, who is such a passer that will give you the opportunity to go up and get the football. And now you have Brian Thomas Jr., who can go up and get the football. You have Tedero McMillan, T-Mac, who can go up and get the football. Jaden Higgins, who can go up and get the football. And Tyler Warren, who can go up and get the damn ball. These are the type of guys Trevor Lawrence needs. And so I think you could see this offense take off in a massive way in 2025 with the talent that we've added. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.